Friends, thank you so much for tuning in today to delve into how to live beyond limits. I'm your host, Marcy Langlois. If you're new, welcome. And for those of you that are returning, I admire your personal commitment to transcend your own story and to live your very best life. This week, I want to discuss hard conversations and our tendency to avoid them. I don't know about you, but confrontation never feels good to me. And usually I'll try to avoid it at any cost. We're going to look at why we go to such great lengths to get out of the tough conversations and then explore some ways that we can make hard conversations easier. I spent a lifetime learning how to suppress my emotions or simply just completely and utterly disregard them. When I finally got sober, though, everything caught up with me. I had two emotions, anger and happiness. And by far, anger was the forerunner. I had no idea that I had lived my entire life like this, and I had completely shut myself off from feeling. What I didn't realize, though, and what I'm here to share with you today, is that I was actually just trying to protect myself. You know, when you have really difficult experiences in life, instead of leaning in and feeling all the things that are coming up, you go into this shutdown mode, right? Close in instead of open. I don't know about you, but my childhood was rough. And I learned early on that it was far better to pull myself up by my bootstraps and keep going than it was to sit down and have a good cry. I think at that moment in time, though, that survival technique got me through some really difficult experiences. Think back to when you were young and all the ways that you felt it might be best to not bring up how you were feeling. Maybe your parents got divorced and you got lost in the shuffle of all of that. Maybe you even cried the first few days, but no one really had a concrete way to make anything better. Your family was broken now, and this is just how things would work out. So you realized, I might as well just stop crying about it. And you stopped talking about it too, because it didn't change anything. No one could fix it, right? So this is critical because this is where the setup begins to avoid the difficult conversations. This is where the separation from our true selves actually begins. Our true self wanted to be comforted when we were crying about the divorce. We wanted to be soothed and told that everything is going to be okay, but none of that happened. So we're left with this messaging that our feelings don't matter and that it's easier just not to say anything. No one does this intentionally to us. It's just part of life. Things get busy. Kids get overlooked because parents have huge worries. It just is what it is. But this is the messaging that gets programmed in. It seems to have served us well in our younger years, so we continue on with that same strategy into our adulthood, fully expecting that if we just avoid our feelings, that things will work out. That might be absolutely true for a bit until you realize that if you don't advocate for yourself, that no one else is going to either. That is a hard truth to swallow. So now here you are, all grown up, and you have no idea on how to feel your feelings or have difficult conversations. I know this feeling because I've lived it, but not acknowledging my feelings stopped working a long time ago. You're probably thinking, yes, finally, someone knows where I'm at. But the big question always is, so now what do I do about it? Well, here are some of the ways that I made difficult conversations easier. 1, it all started by acknowledging my feelings. The most uncomfortable thing in the world, right? It is when you first start out, but it gets easier, believe me. I know that this is totally big stuff, right? Just the act of acknowledging what you're feeling can create a sense of overwhelm when this is a real foreign concept to you. So what I recommend here is just go slow with yourself and just be curious about what's coming up for you. Once you can name what you feel, then you can allow yourself to feel it. Actually, open yourself up. Feel the anger that might be surfacing and the sadness that has been just under the anger. If you're like me, I thought that feeling any emotion would literally kill me. The good news is research shows that emotions are a chemical reaction in our body that only lasts about 90 seconds. I thought for sure I would feel sad for the rest of my life if I opened that door up. Phew, what a relief, right? Once I allowed myself to feel a certain way, I learned how to use my emotions to my benefit. It turns out that your emotions can help guide you and to motivate you to actually have the hard conversations. For example, if I felt sad about something, then I let that motivate me to tell someone they'd hurt my feelings. So instead of suppressing the emotions, I would feel them and then use them in a resourceful way to initiate the conversation. Number 2, I give myself a timeline to complete the conversation. I don't know about you, but when I have something that needs to be taken care of in my life that feels scary to address, then I'll try to put it off, right? I'll make excuses as to why it can wait or what other things I have on my to-do list that are more important to tackle today. The only way I could actually hold myself accountable to actually have the conversation was to give myself a date to complete it by. For me, the harder the conversation, the more important it is to do it fast. I need to have it and get it behind me. Otherwise, I just keep wanting to avoid. Usually, the max time that I'll allow myself, though, is 3 days from the time that I identify that the conversation is actually necessary. If at all possible, I'll even try to have the conversation within 24 hours just to get it over with and be able to move on, because relief comes on the other side of that conversation. Number 3, think about what it is that you really want to say and then write it out. Really take the time here to contemplate what points you want to make. Get all of the things out on paper with what you want to say. Remember, you're having this conversation for your benefit, to express your concerns about something. So what outcome are you looking for? Try to be as clear as possible about what you're trying to accomplish here. Having your ideas laid out on paper in a respectful, organized way can make you feel more confident about approaching the situation. It's super easy to get stuck in the loop of, I'm going to say this, and then they're going to say that, and then I'll respond like this. That sort of mental banter isn't helpful at all. That's what I've learned. I would avoid thinking about how they might respond, but rather turn that focus back onto yourself and what is important for you to convey during this conversation, and stay focused on the intended outcome. 4, schedule time with the person for the conversation. This one is super straightforward, but really important. I've found that when I'm about to approach a difficult subject with someone that I can feel anxious and fearful, if I just bring that subject up out of nowhere, then those feelings of fear and anxiety can come out and be focused towards the other person. However, if I reach out to them and I schedule the time to show up for this conversation, then everyone has the expectation that we're there to discuss something really specific. You won't catch that other person off guard, and they'll likely be in a far more receptive space to be able to listen to what it is you have to say. And number 5, have the conversation, right? I know this one's really easy to say because I'm not the one doing it. But really, after you do the other 4 things, you're golden. You are absolutely ready to sit down and have a conversation about what you feel and what needs to change. Voila, you did it. The huge win that comes from having these conversations is such a huge boost in self-confidence and self-respect. Again, no one's coming to save you. You have to do this for yourself. So you're advocating for yourself, and you did it. You will find that the more that you have difficult conversations, the easier that they become. And you may not need to go through all of these steps above, but this is a really great starting point for the first couple until you understand how to do it and feel comfortable doing it. Friends, we have examined some of the reasons that difficult conversations are tough to have, and I've laid out a 5-step process to make the hard ones easier. No one can do this for you, but you absolutely 100% deserve to do this for yourself. Next time, instead of shoving your emotions down, biting your tongue, and getting run over by someone else again, take 10 minutes and work through this little exercise, and you will be pleasantly surprised how it shifts your life going forward. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you feel like this episode was helpful or insightful, share it with your people. I always want to hear from my listeners about their experiences with limitations that they've overcome or some that they're trying to figure out how to get beyond. Please message me on my website at marcylanglois.com. Follow me on TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube. I look forward to connecting with you next week. And until then, be well.